As time goes by, there's one thing that continues to be said by those as they get older. I wish I would have saved more money. I was reading articles and I ran across one that provided survey results that I really wanted to share with my listeners. Today, I'll be going through some really good information on the topic of savings. The important thing to remember here is during this episode, I don't want you to listen for entertainment and forget. What I want you to do is take action yesterday. That's right, yesterday. Every single day that you wait, you are only affecting yourself, well, really, your future self. And I want you to be ready for whatever comes later in life for you. Let's dive into this today, and it will change your life forever. Here we go.
Welcome to the Financial Mirror, where future success is reflected in our knowledge of fixing the one thing we can control, ourselves.
How's it going? Hopefully everyone is having a great weekend. Thank you for joining me on the Financial Mirror today, where we continue to improve the one thing that we can control, ourselves. So if this is the first time that you're joining in, thank you so much for becoming a new listener or video watcher or however you found me. And don't forget to hit the subscribe and the like on Facebook and YouTube. And if you have found me on the podcast platform of your choice, don't forget to hit that like on Apple and Spotify. The 5-star review and a written comment both go a long ways in helping getting this information out to more and more listeners. Today's a special day. This is a special episode, and this is one that I am truly excited for, and I can't say that enough. But last week, I did an episode on the possibility of a recession looming, right? I did this episode, and it was all about like how we can really look at the facts of what's going on currently, and is this possible that this recession is looming? I believe there's a lot to uncover when topics like that are being discussed. And whether you're talking about the price of everything increasing, your money not going as far, potential for possible job loss of some people and barely making ends meet, all of these are reasons that people become concerned about their finances. And I want to make sure that that's not a concern of yours. So last week I talked about a lot of things that you can do if a recession is actually looming. And that's sort of what brought me to this. I was reading up on trends, right? I was reading up on how trends are starting to affect people and the mindset that people have. And that led me to this episode. I found an article, had a survey in it, and I thought, what better way to really dive into the topic of a recession than to start speaking on this exact topic of, well, savings. So when I was reading through some up-to-date trends, and I know the markets have been all over the place, and the biggest thing that I can tell you, if you're still worried about the markets, I've done a couple episodes, but if you're still worried about the markets, I can tell you this. Dave Ramsey has the best quote for the stock market and how it works and what it's doing currently. But he says the only people that get hurt during a roller coaster are the ones that jump off. So my advice is to not jump off. Don't jump off the roller coaster. It's up and down. It's all over the place. I got it. The market is everywhere, but don't jump off, because the worst thing you can do is jump off now. Some of the worst trading stories out there are people that sold at the bottom, bought the top, then sold at the bottom, bought the top. Right now, you don't want to just sell at the bottom. You don't want to jump off in the middle of the roller coaster ride. So hang in there. Don't sweat it. Keep investing. I talked about it last week, but keep investing and continue to ride. Don't jump off. But in the matter of all of that, so I was reading all of these articles, right, about the current standing in the market, how investments are currently all over the place. And I decided that I found this survey, and I was like, wow, this doesn't directly tie to a recession, but nonetheless, I want to show you how it kind of does. Like, it has its recession-esque capabilities to be something that we talk about. But The article I want to discuss today is based on a survey that was conducted in April and May of this year. So 2022 survey was conducted in April and May. So the what I hope that your takeaway at the end of this episode is life changing, because to let you know it can be, and that's the biggest thing is don't let the current investments, don't let the market that's all over the place, like I said, don't jump off the roller coaster, don't let all of that change your mind, but encourage you. And that's what I want to bring today is encouragement, right? But in this survey that everyone said, some basic principles, right? And those principles are literally that they're life changing to us. We have the option to make these slight changes in our life that can take us down this new life instead of this old life, and all of it can be life changing. So it can be, I promise you. So I started this off the very beginning of the episode, the intro. I said that don't take this for entertainment purposes. Start making action on this single principle, and if you will, you will greatly benefit from it, right? I mean greatly benefit from it. So today I want you to not just listen, but I want you to go one step further in today's episode. I want you to hear me out and then start taking action. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do at this very moment, is to not just stop just listening and actually take that action, because this is an impactful episode. It's got a lot of good information. So let's jump in. So the survey I am mentioning, the title was 70% of retirees would tell their younger selves to start saving earlier, right? Not saving more, not saving in this particular fund, not putting my money into the real estate, just starting earlier, start saving earlier. Wherever it's at, I'm not talking into a savings account or into a brokerage account or into a mutual fund or into a 401k. I'm talking just start saving earlier. So this survey was conducted by Employee Benefit Research Institute Retirement Readiness Survey. That's what this was called. It was by the Employee Benefit Research Institute, but it was called the Retirement Readiness Survey. And this survey was the populace for the people that were utilized to conduct this was 1,100 all American. So if you're out of country, that's fine. All countries in some way capacity tie back to the US dollar in a lot of ways. So survey was more than 1,100 Americans. All of them were age 55 and older, and they all had a minimum of $50,000 in financial assets. So we know that. So that sort of gives us the baseline of where this survey sort of came from. Now, the survey focused on retirement preparedness. That was the subject. That's what they discussed. A lot of the questions were various topics, but one of them was, what would you tell your younger self? Obviously, that's where this came up. Another question, what decisions are you happy you made in life? And what scares you most about retirement? Those are some of those hot topics. So you can see there's quite an abundance of survey questions. Nothing was just like, do you feel prepared for retirement? Yes or no? No, like they were very open questions to get an actual answer out of. What would you tell your younger self? It's not a yes or no question, very open-ended question. Really try to get to the bones of what these retirees feel and how prepared do they feel now that they are 55 and older and they're really coming to the end of that life cycle of work, right? They're getting to that normal, what as Americans we believe is that retirement age, that 59 and a half, 60, when you can start to draw out some of those retirement accounts. But the survey focused on that retirement preparedness. And what was found was a couple of the positives were that many participants were actually happy with how prepared they were for retirement. That was very good for me to read, right? They were happy with how they prepared, right? They weren't happy with all aspects of their preparedness, right? Otherwise, their 70% wouldn't tell us that they would want to tell their younger selves that they would start saving earlier. But they were happy with how they prepare for retirement. And one of the spots that they really discussed was their utilization of IRAs and 401ks. So that's a huge piece, right? Another piece was that many were happy with their decision to pay off their home or downsize their home later in life. They were also happy about paying off their debt as quickly as they could. So, a couple of ideas there. If you have a current house payment, a lot of retirees were very happy with their decision to try to pay that off fast, pay that off quickly, and get that out of their life and just have the house and own it. And then downsizing when they don't need that big of a house anymore. They end up with that empty nest, and all of their family, their kids move on to become adults. Downsizing is not a bad thing, and a lot of those retirees were admitting to that was a very good thing, a good decision that they had. But then the other part was the paying off the debt as early as they could, and that was a highlight, is that they wanted to pay it off as early as they could. Now, the biggest takeaway, and that's what this episode is based on, is that also 70% of them said that they wish they could tell their younger self to start saving earlier. And that's important. And I want to tell you why. So, why it matters. First off, the biggest reason that it matters is as someone is 55 or older, they are the perfect sample for life decisions, right? They're the perfect sample. When you're young, you feel unstoppable. And when I'm saying young, I mean young teen to 30, you feel unstoppable. You feel like life can't hold you back. You're just going to go out and you're going to do this and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And all of a sudden, all that do this, it really consumes you, right? And all the things that are super important, you kind of put on the back burner. You don't think about retirement. You don't think about savings. You don't think about preparing those things. You spend your money on things that you want, and you actually do everything backwards. You spend and then you save what's left, instead of saving first and then spending what you had left over, right? You do all that backwards. And as people get older, they start to realize that all of that changes, and they are starting to feel just like these survey participants, that they have to live with the decisions that they made, that they have to live with living from their younger teens to 30 of spending and saving what's left. They have to live with that decision, and they get into almost a panic because they don't know how they're going to retire. They don't know how they're going to make enough money to actually stop working. So that's where these participants got to. And when these individuals are telling us this, like people that are actually already at that point in their life that they have to now live with this decision, we should stop and listen. They are telling us that they feel that they wish they would have started saving earlier. If I'm looking for advice, there's nobody better than that to look for. They are literally telling me, I wish I would have done XYZ. And what was that? Save earlier. And when someone's older and they're giving you that type of wisdom, those little nuggets, we have to grasp onto that. And so that's where this episode came from. So if you are 55 and older and you're watching this, I encourage you to spread that message to, if you feel that way, I encourage you to spread that message to more people. It's very selfish of us that know that or feel that to say that we're not, like, well, I didn't do it, so why should I tell anybody else? No, you should tell everybody else. You have the ability to change the life that people have later on, and the younger generation that we are developing, and rearing as a society. We can really progress financially in individual households by giving that message out. So I encourage you to absolutely tell that to as many people as you can, and also tell you that it's not too late. That's the other thing that I wanted to make sure I talked about. I don't care how old you are currently. It's not too late to start building your savings up. If you are running low on money for retirement, it's not too late to start building that up. So the one thing that I want to, as we move into this next part of this episode, and it's very impactful. The next part is very impactful. But the number one thing was that we have to understand that we have time. If you are younger, if you are in your 20s, if you are in your 30s, if you're in your 40s, you have time, And that's why it matters right now. Like right now, it matters for you to get started on this. If you think that waiting till tomorrow is a good time to start, that's a whole day that you've already lost. It's too late. I am being a little extra, but seriously, there's no better time than today to start this. I'm going to show you in just a second how time is your friend, how by doing something now is actually going to impact your, I'm talking years, and how much it can grow by just doing something now. And that's the key to why it matters now is time. Time is the key to why it matters now. So the last thing that I want to bring up before we move into what the math says and actually show you some real life numbers about this is I want you to know that last week's episode is a recession looming. I told you that at the beginning of this one that those were semi-connected. That today's episode and that recession is semi-connected. And you're like, how is this connected to a recession? You're talking about saving, and I wish I would have done it earlier. How's that even tied to that? Well, let me show you. So when you retire, you planned on having a certain lifestyle. You planned on having a certain amount of money. You planned on being able to live a certain pattern of life. You planned on living in a certain house, having certain expenses, doing certain hobbies, whatever those things are. You had a plan and you added it up and you got your retirement number and you saved and you got there, right? You did it. Congratulations, you did it. Now, how does this have anything to do with the recession? You're still talking about retirement. Well, do you think when we think about our current retirees, people that either just retired or about to retire, and we're thinking about a recession, do you think that they plan for a year of almost double-digit inflation? No. But for people now, we have the ability to think about that. We have the ability to expect the unexpected. So right now we're moving into, we're not quite at double digit yet. We're for collective, we are just over 8% inflation, but we are on our way to a double digit inflation. If that doesn't start to move in the opposite direction, we're on our way to a double digit inflation. So our current retirees are going through this inflationary period, this recessionary period, and their retirement number that they had added up is possibly not good this year, possibly not good next year, possibly not good last year from pretty much July of last year, right? So that's a big deal. And that's why investing and having that extra cash, saving earlier, growing that investment because you have time on your side and doing that now is so important. It's so important to do those things because when you retire, you have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe we hit 20% inflation. Maybe we hit 30% inflation. Who knows? You don't know what's going to happen. You have to expect the unexpected when you're going through retirement. You don't want to be in the heat of retirement and drawing on that nest egg that you've worked so hard to build for some crisis to hit. And you all of a sudden, now you don't have enough money to afford all of those lifestyle things that you once were wanting to accomplish. So do you know, when we think about it, current retirees, future retirees, I'm talking to all the masses right here. Do you know how much extra you could have made on the value of time? So for everyone, time would have increased their savings by so much. If they would have started days earlier, they would have not put it off for that next week. They not would put it off for that next year. If they would have started earlier, do you know how much they could have been impacted by the time that would have been on their side? How much, you ask? Well, that's what I'm going to hit next because I want to give you real live numbers for side-by-side examples of people that didn't put it off and people that did, because it does add up. So what does the math say? How does it add up? Well, here's a great starting example. And for people watching this, you can see it. It's visual and it's right there in your face. For people on the podcast, I am going to walk through these numbers because I want you to really get a good grasp of it. So we're going to walk through this. What I have right now is I've got two people. I've got someone at age 25 and I've got someone at age 35, right? So they're going to start saving the exact same day. One's 25, one's 35. what they're going to save is they're going to save $300 a month for 30 and 40 years. They're both going to retire at 65. One's 25, one's 35. They're going to save $300 a month, both of them. And they're both going to retire at the same time. So one has 10 extra years to grow their money, and the other one is right there. You know, they have 30 years, they're going to retire, and they're going to hope for the best. Well, with these people, the person that started saving at 25, they ended up turning that $300 a month investment. It ended up becoming about $972,000 at age 65. So just under $1 million by age 65. For the person that started at 35, that same $300 a month, they ended up having $425,000. So almost half of what the other person did. And I want you to think back to an episode I did a couple of weeks ago, right? And I talked about how on average your money doubles every I told you 7 years because on average you get a 10% return. This example we utilized an 8% return, but on average you get a 10% return with the market. So this is lowballing it slightly, but 7 to 10 years. Let's look at that. Your money's going to double every 7 to 10 years, and I did an episode on this a couple weeks ago, and I literally talked about just that. And this is a perfect example. 10 years, this person's money doubled, right? Almost doubled what the other person's was. Actually, over doubled, but literally doubled from what the other person's was in 10 years, right? And so I use this example, and I think it's the most impactful example. To me, it is, and to other people that I've had this conversation with. But it takes the same amount of time for your money to go from 50,000 to 100,000 as it takes to go from 500,000 to $1 million. Same amount of time. And it's mind blowing. Same amount of time for it to go from 50 to 100 as from 500 to $1 million, right? So think about that. So this is amazing, but it shows you how 10 years makes all the difference. If you are waiting to get started, don't. You're only hurting your future self. Go ahead and jump in. What I want you to know is that time is your friend. There's so many advantages starting early. I've talked about it, but on average, money doubles every 7 years. Okay. So the next little example that I've got, and the pictures didn't come out that good trying to fit them all on the screen, but for people that are listening to this, I'm going to walk you through it. If you started and you had 30 years to invest, right? So let's use the same example. You start at 35 and you go to 65. As little as $25 a month from 35 to 65 at a 10% return, you're looking at, for $25 a month, you're looking at about $50,000. Not much, right? But you only did $25, right? $25. You gave up eating one time, going out to eat one time a month to invest into your future self. And it turned out to be $50,000 in 30 years. So let's do an actual real life example. So that's just a baby example. And I wanted to show you that, but a real life example. These are real numbers. And this is why you should start investing now. If you invested, let's just say that you started at age 20. From age 20 to 30, you invested, let's say $50 a month. You do $50 a month for 20 to 30. You do 55 a month for, or no, let's do 100. You do $50 a month from 20 to 30. You do $100 a month from 30 to 40. You do $150 a month from 40 to 50. And you do $200 a month from 50 to 60. How much do you think that is? We just went every decade of our life. We just went up $50. We went 50, 100, 150, 200. Every decade, we just went up $50. You would end up with $408,000. And that's literally saying you didn't get a raise. You didn't get anything. You were just that's really saying that you didn't get much of a raise, because if you can only bump up your savings every decade $50, there was not much growth going on in there. So I would tell you that I think most people, Um, maybe 50 is too much from 20 to 30. Maybe you have to start at 25. The number doesn't matter. The number truly doesn't matter. Just put in what you can and then do it. What I like to give examples of is minimal amounts, right? I like to give examples of numbers that are reasonable for people. And if you could do 50 from 20 to 30, 100 from 30 to 40, 150 from 40 to 50, and 200 from 50 to 60, and end up with $408,000, that's taking a pretty soft approach and getting to retirement with right under $500,000, right? Pretty generous approach. And so I challenge you. Remember, it's all about using the knowledge that people that have already gone through this phase of their life that we're currently going through, that I'm currently going through. People have already been through it, and it's taken those nuggets of wisdom that they have and applying them to ourselves. Utilizing their experiences and their knowledge and applying it to our life. And so I challenge you to start today. Start investing today. And I don't care how old you are, you should still be investing. You don't just stop investing because you retire, right? Maybe if your money's already invested and you just don't take out as much. If you're literally living on your nest egg, maybe try to balance it so that you can grow that nest egg. But I would have to challenge you though. If you've built a nest egg and you've really grown that thing, you should be living on it. It's yours. You should live on it. Enjoy retirement. You work so hard to get there. Enjoy it. Don't deprive yourself. But for people like me and people like a lot of my listeners, we still have time and we have to value that time and we have to take advantage of that time. So I challenge you today, start investing. As soon as you can, open that account and start investing. Don't wait. Don't put it off because every single day matters when it comes to compound interest. So all of this is said because I found a survey that said 70% of people wanted to tell their younger self to start saving earlier. Right? It's a big piece of advice. If you don't get started yesterday, you will be telling yourself that too. If you don't start now, you as well will fall into that 70% that will tell yourself, I wish I would have started saving earlier. Don't be that. Don't be that person that you heard this episode, you saw this episode, you didn't do it, you get to that age and you think back and you're like, man, if I would have just listened to that episode, if I would have actually taken action on that episode, I listened to it for entertainment and I didn't take action. I challenge you to take action. You have the option to control it now. So go ahead and do that. Now, if you are needing a little help and maybe you don't know how to get started invested, that's fine. Not everybody does. And that's where I can really jump in and help. So if you do want to hop in and get a little help investing, get a little help figuring out where you should be putting this money, head over to thefinancialmirror.org, hit book now in the middle of the screen, sign up for a free consultation, and we can discuss how a financial coach could truly benefit you. Now, if you do want to give a little extra dose of support to the stream, go on over to thefinancialmirror.org/shop and pick you up some awesome Financial Mirror gear. Truly helps support the stream, just helps continue to grow the community and make the stream that much better. Now, finally, this is what it's all about. Investing, building, and getting to that retirement. So please take this message and really share it with others. How can you do that? Easiest way is to just go out to social media, share the message, tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share all across all platforms verbally. If you have a podcast, if you're listening to this on a podcast, that 5-star review and the written comment both go a long ways. On YouTube and Facebook, comments, likes, all go in extremely positive direction for getting this message out to more and more people. Finally, what I want to end this with is tell you, I'm going to say it, I've said it, and I'm going to say it again, but don't wait. Start investing today. Don't fall into the 70% that wish they would have started saving sooner. Till next week, continue improving the one thing that you can control, yourself. Peace.
Well, that wraps up today's Financial Mirror. Join us next week as we continue to work on ourselves, change our mentality, and to commit to achieving the success we always envisioned. Regardless of your platform, help us grow as a community. Please like, subscribe, and share with the people in your lives.